stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, everybody look your consent agenda over.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Motion in a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Same. Motion carried. Okay. First up, Matt Wyatt, Planning and Development. Maria Seek, Administrator of Public Health. We want to recognize Barb Lee for her service and Diane Anderson with the Iowa Department of Public Health, Human and Health is with. Okay? Come on. Come on.
So we're here today to offer our biggest thank you to Dr. Barb Lee for volunteering her time to sit on the boards of health in Potawatomi County for 17 years. Barb started her time by sitting on the Board of Health for the City of Council Bluffs in 2006. And in 2016, she became a part of the transition team to consolidate public health with Potawatomi County. Looking back on our time volunteering for the boards of health, she served during two different pandemics, H1N1 in 2009 and COVID-19, even serving as chair in 2020. In military terms, she is now a veteran of public health. Barb not only offers her time on the Board of Health, she also owns and operates Valley View Vet Clinic. She believes in our community so much that she invests her time and money into it. She has worked hard to start and grow her business, opening a new state-of-the-art clinic that has separate entrances for cats and dogs to help with the animal stress levels. Potawatomi County has been fortunate enough to have Dr. Lee call it home. It's not often that you see so much community spirit in one person, let alone a family. Her daughter Amber has now joined the Board of Health to ensure that we have an animal expert on the board. Since 2016, I'm proud to say that I've gained a friend in Barb, and it's a friendship that I greatly appreciate. So for myself, the department, the board, and on behalf of all the residents of Potawatomi County, we thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
It's
Thank
an
you for
honor
your
to
time.
be able to serve the community.
And then we also have an honor.
And I just want to say thank you and give you a certificate of appreciation from the Iowa Department of Health and Human Services, previously known as the Iowa Department of Public Health, on serving as a Board of Health member for the last 17 years. Public health could not be what it is without volunteers like you that support everything that they do, what we do to protect the health of our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we take a photo real quick?
Oh, no, you're fine. Stay up here, clap.
If you want, yeah, we can
Okay.
back up. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Let me see you, Susan.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Barb.
Thanks, Barb.
Thank you, guys. Barb. Thank you.
Thanks for your service, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm gonna miss it.
Yep.
Thank
Yeah.
you. But Amber will do a good job.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Lee, but your first patient was?
Your dog. And I went to their house too.
She made house calls at that time, so
Yeah,
love you.
and he was made, he lived to 18 years?
18 years.
Yep.
Petey.
Yeah, Petey Jorgensen. He went by Petey Jorgensen.
That's a great memory. Thank you for coming.
That cleared this out. Okay. Next up, Rachel Hamilton, CEO, and Terry McCarthy, Plant Manager, Marnie Elkhorn, Telephone Company, discussion on costs of secondary roads permit to Berry Utilities.
Yeah, so you received the material that we sent to you, I'm assuming. In 2021, you gave us ARPA funds to assist in building fiber or burying fiber to the rural residents of Pottawatomie County. And there's a map in your materials. We were kind of astonished to see the fees of $100 per mile to permit. We do services in Audubon County, Cass County, Shelby County, none of which have such high fees to bury. And we had buried 30 miles last year. We'll build or bury another 60 miles this year. So the $10,000 that you gave us to contribute to this, we're effectively giving back to you for the permitting process. One of the few counties in the entire state that charge this much. You know, it's only a small portion of our project is $8 million. So yes, it's a small portion, but a portion that we had not planned on. Typically, we wouldn't be burying this much fiber in rural Iowa, but once the pandemic came about, the governor released grants and fundings to build fiber out to rural residents, and so we took advantage of that. Typically, we stay within communities. We serve from Exira all the way to Underwood, typically within the community, not out in the rural areas. And so I'm asking if you would consider waiving those fees for this project or contributing additional funds to help for the permitting costs.
John, do you want to speak to this any?
Sure. We started the permit fees in 2019, or November 2019, we discussed it, started in January 2020. We started and we have a lot of permitting going on with entrances and utilities just all the time, regardless of who it is, and we always have somebody working. So we started those trying to recover the cost because we put a foreman out there and they review the plans. A lot of times when we get plans for utilities, they're kind of done, you know, out of state and a person's never really surveyed the roads. And we go back and we look for the culverts they might have missed or where the terrain isn't, you know, really suitable for them to bury fiber or other utilities. So we have quite a few review up front, then we kind of check in on them, whether they're for traffic control, for, you know, the safety of the public, and restoring the right of way back to what it was, and those sort of things. So we do have some costs there we're just trying to recover those during the project with the fees.
Questions, comments?
So is that a third party that puts the cable in, or is that you guys directly?
Yes. We hire a contractor to do all of our burying. This is a significant project for us. So, you know, individual drops to homes we could handle, but nothing of this scope. So we do have a contractor that does this work for us. I would hope that you would say you've never had any concerns with any work that we've done. We're pretty proud of the services that we provide to our communities, and so we're pretty cognizant of what is going on and restoring your roads to the way that they were before we came through. And I do appreciate the work you do. I understand there is a cost, but again, I'm privy to the information of what other counties are doing to partner with their providers to get fiber to these homes, and we're really on the low end of that. And so I really would ask you to consider waiving those costs for this project. It's not something we had to do. Again, we reside in Pottawatomie County. We pay taxes here too. But the bigger providers weren't going to do it, and we saw an opportunity to get fiber to these customers that don't have high-speed internet now.
John, when you set that permit fee at $100 a mile, I can't remember back in 2019, but everything. But I remember a little bit about it, and even at $100 a mile, you're not covering your costs.
No, that was a pretty conservative guess because we were trying to make a one-size-fits-all and not run an actual cost during a project. I mean, then you just start having costs in the administration of tracking costs. So we kind of made a generic one, and we thought we aimed low as far as what our costs would be. I do want to agree, I'd rather work with these guys in the RECs over any utility company. They've all been good to work for, or with, I guess. But at the end of the day, I don't know that, I mean, you wouldn't expand if it wasn't cost effective to expand. So, I mean, there's value there. And, you know, your shareholders are making money on what you do, or if it wasn't a good decision for them, you wouldn't be doing it, I guess. But, I guess I just caution, if you waive a fee, then where does that stop with waiving fees? Are you guys gonna do all of them? I don't know, that's just, I guess, I'd encourage you to think about the precedent, I guess, before you make a decision on that.
How many
I would argue
question, how many miles do you have to bury for this project?
this project is 90 miles.
90 miles?
Yeah.
And how many have you got buried now?
30.
30 of the 90.
Yep.
So the overall total is 90 times $100 per mile, right?
And you've already paid 3,000 or 9,000 in fees today?
3,000.
Okay.
We have another 60 that we need to do.
We have the permit ready to file for this year's 60, we
Yeah.
just haven't filed it yet.
But I would also argue if we didn't do it, who would do it? Who would get this infrastructure to the rural residents of Potawatomi County? There's a lot of residents out there yet that do not have access to high-speed internet. They were trying to work from home, do school from home. You could be waiting years yet. There's another round of applicants that will be, applications going out to serve residents that still don't have it. We're just skimming the surface. There's still many more in Potawatomi County who do not have access to the infrastructure, and I think that's what the ARPA funds in part were for.
Glad this is a political decision.
Thanks, John.
And like John points out, the precedence that it sets is obviously a concern. But as Rachel mentions, she's the only corporation in Pot County that's doing this. I mean, you're a resident, your business is here. How
We're
many?
not required to serve those residents. It's a much larger corporation than ours that has services to those residents now that have not updated their facilities. So it's not really, we are not required to. But yes, we are a private company. You look at $8 million, and the average customer is between $120 and $150 a month in services. It's gonna take a long time to recoup that. And yes, it's a small amount in the scheme of a project, but from the last time that we had done work in Potawatomi County, we were surprised. And I don't know if you've researched other counties, but this is significant compared to what the other counties are doing.
If I remember correctly, John, the prior permit cost, regardless if they put in 5 miles or 5,000 miles, it was $100, is that right? Is that what that was?
There was not a
Yeah.
permit fee prior to 2019. We were just absorbing those costs, but we,
Can I get my driveway permit money back then? I mean, there were permit fees, just not for them.
no. We gave all those, but it's such an undertaking, I guess, on our staff, or it got to be an undertaking, I guess, running around doing those permits. It was just taking a significant amount of somebody's time, so we're just trying to cover those costs.
What's the pleasure of the board?
My understanding, this is discussion only. We have a permit fee.
Yes,
That
it is
is set.
discussion only. You're right.
And there,
I would like to see you back in Potawatomi County at some point for future projects. I mean, I certainly, I agree with you about, the lack of service on that side.
Speak up, Jeff.
I said I would like to see them back in Potawatomi County for future projects. I don't want to see them be discouraged by what's going on now, but at the same time, you know, we are very, very stretched thin budget-wise. So it's, certainly needs some more discussion on our part.
Yeah, no,
My
I completely
views.
understand.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we have residents contacting us all the time. There's a couple of roads just east of here that the residents are begging for high-speed internet. So this is not a one-and-done project for us. Like I said, we service all the way from Underwood to Exira. But it certainly makes you reconsider, you know, Audubon County's calling us and saying, will you come put fiber in here?
You got a grant to put this in, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay. That covered the entire cost of the project?
No, it does not. The entire project will be about 8 million. The grant was for 4.5.
Okay, we,
So are these two areas that we're talking about trying to get additional service to is Underwood and Crescent, is that correct?
The rural area between Underwood and Crescent. Yeah,
Oh, the
that-
rural, the area between those two, not the communities themselves.
Not the communities themselves, no.
Okay.
Weston, there's Underwood, there's Weston right down in here.
The smaller, long, skinny area on the east side of the interstate is what we buried last year. The larger area on the west side is what we plan to bury this year.
Okay.
Is the state charging you fees as well for their right of way?
No.
It's just the county that's charging the fees.
It's not a right-of-way fee, it's a permit fee.
Correct.
Okay.
Permit fee for the right of way though.
That's where they're putting it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're doing, right?
Yeah, it's a permit to be in the right of way.
Right of ways. But it's all buried, right?
Correct.
Everything's buried.
Yep.
Good.
Okay,
We've got
What?
crews that are ready to go as soon as the
We have
permits
all
are
the
done and the
materials on
weather's.
hand and the crews lined up, yep.
how long will it take you to do this?
I would estimate about 3 months to do that 60 miles.
Okay. Any more comments?
I'd like to try to get this done. And work with the local providers to make it, happen. That makes sense. I don't know who else is gonna take a shot at servicing those outliers, as I call them.
Okay,
So we've got Rachel's request to waive all of the fees. Is there a compromise that you would suggest to us to consider?
I am not opposed to paying some fees. Everybody has to pay a fee to file a permit, well, in most counties, so I would agree with that. I just think $100 a mile is exorbitant when you compare it to the other counties in the state.
What kind of fees are you used to paying? I mean, can you give us an example of what would be reasonable in your mind?
Well, used to paying is a little different because before it was 0, like he mentioned. But some of the other counties are $100 a mile with a $1,000 cap. Some of them are just a $50 permit fee. It varies a lot, but probably the ones I researched, the more expensive one was $100 a mile with a $1,000 cap
per project?
per project, yeah.
Matt, is this in our schedule of fees? Any road permits?
I have to pull it up and look at what's in there.
Okay. Well, as Susan said, that it's, you start doing it for one, then you don't have a permit fee.
Well, what we can do is put this on maybe next week, do a little more research and see what we can come up with, okay?
Yeah.
See if we
See
can
what the board says.
I appreciate you hearing us out.
cap it.
Yeah.
Do they typically go out at the beginning and the end of the project, or how do they go and do their due diligence work on
When
your
we get
side,
the
John?
permit, the foreman will drive the route and look at it. So one of the common problems we have is when they do them by aerial photographs, they don't find the culverts. So we'll go back and put notes in there to bore under the culverts if they haven't found them. And the risk we run is that if the contractor doesn't get those notes, then they'll plow through a metal pipe and not even know they hit it. Then we'll have a hole in the road and we go back to fix it, and that's when we find these things. So we like to go back and make sure they're boring under the culverts and have those identified. So we'll do that ahead of time, then as the project goes, to kind of, they'll follow up a couple miles at a time.
At the same time as the project's going then?
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
be behind them, I guess, kind of reviewing it and checking on traffic control. A lot of the gravel roads, it won't be too tough. We had a contractor a year or two ago on Old Lincoln Highway, they would leave a spool of cable on the road and we'd have to find somebody to move it, and we had to have them go hire a traffic control company because they caused some accidents, and you never know what you're gonna get, I guess. And we've never had an issue with, like I said, the RECs and the local telephone's been great companies to work with as far as restoring and being responsible out there. But it's still a cost to us, and I can't differentiate between them and what another company might do. It's just kind of a one-size-fits-all for our department.
Okay. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you,
Appreciate
appreciate it.
you guys.
Thanks for hearing us.
We will put it back on the agenda, do a little more discussion, go from there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Slack, Director of Buildings and Grounds, Rick Harris and/or Rick Mitchell.
Check, pretty close.
Okay, I got close.
Closer than most.
Optimize the System Courthouse Renovation Commissioning Report Review.
You bet.
Optimize is kind of wrapped up with the courthouse renovation project, commissioning of that. And I wanted Rick to share his report, so you guys can kind of see the value of what we're doing here.
Is that, are we talking about HVC?
Yeah, the commissioning of the HVAC equipment.
We're think it's wrapped up?
With the courthouse renovation, we're still working on the addition right now.
Yeah, there's three phases to the courthouse.
Which part is this room?
This room needs to be fixed.
This is the commissioning agent that we hired to.
No, but this room, which part of this room is?
Oh, this room is actually the issues we're having in this room right now are related to the air handler replacement project that we're working on currently.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to
Yep.
get a baseline.
Fair question.
Baseline where we're at.
But it's wrapping up and it's still hot.
So basically, we talked before, prior to getting approval to do the commissioning, and like Jason said, this one is three parts for the courthouse. We finished part one. There's still a couple open items that Jason's working to get closed out. So what we kind of wanted to do is just present a little bit of our findings that we found there, and understand that part 2 and 3, because we're involved early in the process, hopefully we don't have to have things broken, running, and then get them fixed. We catch them as we go. So that's the whole point. The earlier we get involved in commissioning, kind of the better the process. But basically this report was submitted to Jason. I think he submitted some of the items that we had found and repaired, but typically when we finish a phase, this is a report we issue. We didn't want to issue this to everybody because it's 271 pages, but if anybody ever wants a copy, we're more than happy to share it. But basically, in a nutshell, we just kind of wanted to go over some of the major items that we found. And like I said, our goal is to not, hey, look at all these broken things we found. Our goal is to just work with the contractors and get stuff fixed as we go. And that's the way that the process works. But we do like to kind of take some credit at the end for some of the things we did. So the way we do commissioning, it's not just, it's too hot in this room, let's fix that. It's also looking at energy consumption and how things run. And a lot of the things that are in this report that we found have to do with that. For example, the way air handlers run in economizer mode. So if you need cooling on a day like today, so you do one of two things. You either run a chiller and make chilled water to make the air colder, or when it's cool outside, you use that fresh air. That's called an economizer cycle. And we noticed as we're testing air handlers, they were not set up with economizer cycle. So the reality of it is, it was in the specifications, in the design, just didn't get put into the programming. So if it was not commissioned, but running properly from a chilled water perspective, this room would still be cool because the air handler would get chilled water, the room would be cool, nobody would know the difference. But the reality of it is, if it's set up properly with that economizer cycle, it brings in that outside fresh air and uses what we call free cooling to cool this space. So by commissioning it, that's getting caught, that's getting corrected. But if we weren't commissioning it, nobody probably would have known the difference other than your utility bills. A similar story on the hot water pumps.
So who would have been responsible for that prior to you coming in?
That's the thing. So the reality of it is, the mechanical contractor, the controls contractor, it lies in one of their courts. But buildings are getting so much more complicated nowadays. It's similar to vehicles, you know, an old car, you pop the hood and you're mechanically inclined, you can make that thing run all day long. Pop the hood of a brand new car, unless you know computers and electronics and controls, buildings are the same way. So what happens is the design engineer designs something, the contractors install it, and then the programmers and control company program it. There's a lot of nuances and things that get missed along the way. And that's kind of what we do, is we fill the gaps to make sure those things get caught and get done. So most of the things we find, there's nobody egregiously trying not to get these things done. It just slips through the cracks. And like I said, if this room was cool, nobody would know the difference. A similar example we have for this project was the hot water pumps. So the way the engineer designed it from a energy perspective is, as that pump, you have two pumps. You always have redundant pumps on heating. But as that pump ramps up, once it exceeds 95% speed, we like to bring on the second pump, because the rule of pump law is one pump running at 100% uses the max horsepower. A pump actually running at 50% only uses 30% of the horsepower. So as that ramps up, the sequences were supposed to bring two pumps on and run two pumps at 50% rather than one at 100. And now you'd be using 30% and 30%, so using 60% of the energy as one pump running at 100. That didn't get set up either. We caught that and we worked that in to get it set up. So would that pump have ran at 100% and heated this building? Absolutely. But now it won't. It'll run at 50% along with the second pump. Along those same lines, the sequences call up, you have two pumps, even though you really only need one to satisfy the load. The sequence calls after this pump runs X hours, and let's say 20. Then it switches over and runs the other pump. And so you get even wear on both of those. That was not implemented. So what would have happened is that one pump would have ran all the time, all day, every day. Nobody would have known the difference. But now that we're cycling back and forth. So long story short, that's kind of a lot of the things we're finding in commissioning that maybe don't make, you know, heating and cooling any more comfortable in this place. But it makes it more efficient, and those things would have just gone lost. There are also things that we catch that make things more comfortable. I think we were here working on a project, and it was on a cold day, and the chiller tripped out and froze up. And we had a guy on staff, not even part of our scope or what we're supposed to be doing, but because we view this as a team and we're here, we were able to help troubleshoot why that froze up, get it going, and get it started again to make things run better. So this report kind of, you know, lays out all the broken things we found, but there's so many other things that we found that weren't necessarily broken, but just make the system run better. And I also wanted to show you, we're unique in the fact that we use a software called CX Alloy, and we do this so that it's not we go test stuff, we write a report, the next meeting, 2 weeks from Thursday, we turn it in, oh, here's the broken stuff, then they go fix it. We do everything on a software called CX Alloy, which is out there all the time. And so everybody involved in the project has access to this software. So when we're on site and we test something, instantly it's up there and that contractor knows what's broken and they can fix it. Because the goal is, let's keep these things going, because how do these contractors make money? They get in, they get it done right, and they get out. And so we're trying to encourage that. So this software, and it's available for anybody that's part of the project to see. If they wanted to see an issue, they would go to construction issues and, okay, here's all the current things that are out there. And if I'm a particular contractor, you know, I'm going to come down and say, okay, what's assigned to engineer controls? And I'm not picking on them, I'm just picking the first contractor. So they're the controls contractor, and it says, okay, they have 29 issues that they need to fix that are open. So they can go in and say, okay, the suction static pressure switch can't be reset. They go in, they fix it, they mark on here that it's fixed, we test it again, we close it, and we move on. So this is another thing that's unique, that what we do is to do everything in CX Alloy so that it's transparent, it's current and live, rather than having to wait to the next meeting to get stuff fixed. It also allows Jason and people to get in there to see, All right, if we're having trouble in this room today, he can look, oh, well, that's why, because, this widget with the air handler is not working correctly.
Okay.
So that's kind of, just wanted to explain one of 3 phases, kind of some of the value we brought so far. And as you know, there's a lot more to go, but we're working through it. And this is a tricky project. Anytime a building's occupied and going, it's tricky. But Jason just wanted us to kind of present some of our findings.
And what's nice is once a month, we sit in the OAC meetings with these guys and give an input and say, trying to catch stuff before they even get implemented. So,
Okay.
And like I said, if anybody wants to get shared on the report, we have no issues with that. As long as Jason's good with us sharing information, we're happy to, share our reports as we put them together. Or even if you really want to play along and watch in CX Alloy, you're welcome to do that as well.
So is it on a year schedule or a monthly schedule or something? So when the building is, it's never dark per se, but the only ones that are here typically sometimes is 911, right?
Correct.
So if we're going on an extended weekend, does it stay whatever in weekend mode until
There are
early
occupancies.
Monday?
There are occupancy settings that we can set up in the building automation. So, right now, I'm not sure how that's set up. We're in the midst of all this construction right now. But yes, in the future, that's where we plan to go with it.
Yeah, in the end, they'll be occupied, unoccupied. And a lot of times we do what's called standby mode too.
Right.
Where unoccupied, yes, it's Saturday at midnight and we know no one's gonna come in here. Other than paying attention to humidity and letting things drift too far, we'll let things drift. And then there's standby mode where if you use occupancy sensors, hey, there could be people in this room. So we'll let it drift a little bit and then the occupancy sensor detects you and then it fully conditions it. So those are all energy saving strategies that, if we're involved early in projects, that we bring to the table and make sure all that stuff gets implemented in the design phase. This project, we were brought in on the back end and we're just testing. That's why I recommend as you move forward with other projects, the earlier you get commissioning involved, the more value, we can bring.
What kind of energy savings are we looking at?
So,
Got any idea?
no, that's a great question, but, so I'll just point to industry standard. Basically, buildings that are commissioned, they brag about being 8 to 20% more efficient than a building that's not commissioned. That's not my made up number, that's the industry, measured norm. We tend to go towards the higher end of that because we don't just make sure it's running properly, but we go to setbacks and standby modes, things that aren't even what I'll call in the normal practice, just because we're an energy savings company. That's kind of how we were built originally. Yep.
Cool. Questions, comments?
Can I get you to take a look at this one and tell me what's going on here?
Yeah. You want me to pull it up on this particular one?
You might recall it.
Yep, so, on that one there, that's Engineer Controls ran a temporary line
Okay.
to run a piece of equipment. They left it, walked away from the project. We identified it, said that's not right, that's a tripping hazard, that's all kinds of other hazards. So I think they're in the process. Have you talked to them about that?
That's Ray Martin's items and we're open
Ray
to
Martin.
fire over that, yep.
So that's an open item, so until it gets closed, once they say, yeah, we've got it cleaned up, we go verify and then we close it. And then the other thing I didn't really talk about is we also do field observations as part of this. So, and this is out in CX Alloy as well. So every time we do a walkthrough, we just note things that we're seeing and not seeing. Some of it are for contractors to fix, some are just notes to the group, to the team. But we do those on a regular basis and put all those reports. And once again, those are live in CX Alloy that anybody can see once we post them.
Once this project completely wraps up, I'd love to make sure you guys have got a copy of the full report. So I think we're about 6 months away from being completely wrapped up, correct? The addition?
We should be wrapped up with the addition in May.
Okay, good. All right.
So you almost have to run a full year to get that. I don't know if you can ever get the optimum balance, but, because especially this time of year when you go into spring and fluctuating with winter and then it gets up into the 60s in one day and you're back in the 30s the next and then similar in the fall.
Yeah, and so you're exactly right. As part of our process, we do what we call seasonal testing because we can kind of test heating now, we can kind of test cooling now, but when it was really cold, we really got after the heating side. And even though we were done with the phase of the project, when it's 95 and humid, we're gonna come back and make sure we can work those tweaks out. And also part of our process is what we call either a 10 or 11 month walkthrough, where we go through with the owner and we just like, hey, where are your pain points, what aren't working? Because we want to make sure if there are any other things to get them addressed while the warranty is still in place. And, you know, even if it works on day one, they're electronics, mechanical devices, things are going to fail. So we want to make sure to do that walkthrough to get everything covered before your warranties expired. So even when a project's done, we still have that, okay, you know, final completion was issued this June, so the next, you know, May, ish time, we'll be back to kind of do a walkthrough with the owner to make sure everything's running like it should still.
Is there basically an air handler unit associated with each one of those temperature controlled devices then?
There's a VAV box in the ceiling that's associated with each one of those.
There is?
Yep.
Yep, and every one of those have controls and mechanical devices that operate it to make sure it's not too hot or too cold in here. And you're getting the proper amount of fresh air you should be getting.
And they're basing the temperature off of what the ambient temperature is in the room that's shown on there?
Yep.
Oh,
And that's why location of those devices is important. We see sometimes where somebody will put it behind a refrigerator that's generating heat, and then they're saying, well, it's so cold in my room. Well, that's because the thermostat thinks it's hot.
well, this one, well, maybe it's getting fixed or got fixed, but you would have thought this one would have went into whatever fresh air mode or started dumping in some.
As it is, sorry to interrupt, as it is right now, we're not able to pull in fresh air because that's not hooked up right now.
Okay.
We're not able to do any cooling right now, that's why it's warm in here.
Okay.
They're working on that, hopefully we have, you know, we'll be able to pull in fresh air here in a couple weeks.
And then would that have been fresh air specific to this room then, or?
The building.
Yeah, so you have an air handler that provides the fresh air to a bunch of spaces, and then the thermostats have a VAV box, like Jason was saying, that control temperature in various spaces. Because you might want it 68, and the office next to you might want it 75.
Right. Okay.
There's our air handler unit right now. And the door's open.
Pretty complicated system.
Yeah.
So the reason why we got engaged, there were a few issues that the mechanical engineer, like, I can't figure this out. He designed the building, but doesn't get into the weeds of things. And so he recommended Jason give us a call. Jason called us. I think you guys are pretty happy with the results thus far.
Yes.
And so this has kind of moved into now the sheriff's office is having, they're having real issues. Like,
Yes.
this building has some issues, but they're having real issues there. So we've kind of moved forward on a little commissioning job over there too. And so just getting started on that, but there are real issues over there.
And the other thing we bring to the table on these construction projects is we're an independent, neutral third party. We don't care what brand of equipment you buy, what engineer you use, what contract, doesn't matter to us. But we're knowledgeable enough, and we have, you know, from licensed engineers to programmers to technicians all on our staff, that when there is a problem, there's not gonna be a mechanical saying, not my fault, control saying, not my fault, because we can look at it and say, nope, that's on them, and they need to go fix it, and vice versa. So that's the other thing we bring this, is being that neutral third party to kind of sort out questions on whose, you know, fault things are and who needs to fix stuff.
Good. So you came in and started this baseline when?
Was it November?
I wanna say, yeah, it was before Christmas.
Okay.
Yep.
So of 2022.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So do they run a full year?
No, that's what this first report is that we just issued. So substantial completion for that project, I don't know when it technically was.
Well, it's almost 2 years now.
And so that one we got brought in after the fact. Because it's so blurred here because it's actually 3 separate projects, even though it's all one building. So the renovation where we got brought in, where that's what this report is for, was stuff that was done, gone, and over and been operating for a while. So when I say one pump was operating, it had been operating that way for a year. And so you
Okay.
brought heat to the building, but it wasn't doing it as efficiently as it should have been.
Okay.
And then the second phase is what we're in now, which is the air handler replacement. And then the third is the addition. And so the second and third are kind of running simultaneously. But when those projects are done, then it'll be a warranty a year post that date. The first phase, unfortunately, we were brought in late because and the reason we were brought in is because of a lot of the issues that they were having.
And it's gathering data all the time.
The control system gathers data all the time. And that's the other thing that we make sure that happens, that you get all your trends and all that stuff set up in that control system so that when something does go wrong, you can look back and kind of see where that failure was. And it helps the staff troubleshoot and get stuff done.
And those weren't set up. They are now.
Efficiencies may just pay themselves off.
That's the hopes, yes, yep.
Well, and some of these issues that they're finding, it may have taken us years, to find them and get them diagnosed. And some of them may never gotten addressed.
Right.
So you got heating, you got cooling, and you got air movement. And then on a multi-story building, you got hot air on top and cold air on the bottom. So you're always moving air, is that?
Yeah, you have to, because you always have to be bringing in fresh air too.
Okay.
In today's world, especially the more people you have, the more important it is to bring that fresh air in for lots of reasons.
So you're looking to basically replace the air in this building several times a day, I'm guessing.
Well, everything has what we call an air change per hour, which means how many times an hour does the air in this room change? That has to do with the volume. So like in a laboratory, you're changing it 10 or 12 times an hour. Every 5 minutes, you're getting new air. In a typical office or a room like this, you're probably at 2 to 3. So every 20 to 30 minutes, in theory, all the air that was in here is gone and new air is brought in.
Okay, so even if you're not, like you said, in an unoccupied room, there's really no specific temperature control, but air is still moving, so.
Yep.
So
There's always what we call during an occupied, you have fresh air requirements. And that's calculated by the number of people that can be in a room and all that type of stuff.
Okay, that's quite a chore, to manage all of
Yeah.
that.
And this room will feel significantly different, I feel, in 2-3 months.
It's been hot this winter.
Warmer.
I'll tell you
Well,
that.
I mean, compared to what it ever has been, because the requirements have changed, so.
Okay.
So where's the where's the brain at on this thing?
All resides in a little controller
Right
that
there.
he looks at in a computer.
Is it on a computer screen then?
Yeah, yep.
By floor then, or
Yeah, it's by space.
by space?
Well, we have the building automation system we pull up. We can pull up the chilled water system. We can pull up the hot water system.
Right.
We can pull up each individual air handler, see how that's performing. We can also go into the individual space in the building and diagnose problems from there too.
And then can you set the upper and lower limits?
Yes.
On those per space?
Oh, he's gonna have the power that even if you go to that thermostat and change it, if he doesn't want it to move, it
Right.
won't move.
Okay. Okay. So,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
so does it send out an alarm if it gets out of tolerance then? Is that?
We do get alarms, it's usually from a sensor and an air handler. We don't necessarily get alarms from spaces, but we get the alarms from the equipment.
And that's all configurable. You could configure it to where you get an alarm for every space if it's 1 temp out of range, but I don't recommend to do that
No,
because
no.
then that's all Jason will be doing is
Right,
answering that
no.
stuff.
I mean,
But yeah, those are all alarms that we set up and what we call critical alarms versus, a room's a couple degrees out of temp, that might warrant an alarm and it goes into his email. The boiler shuts down in the dead of winter, that's something that he's gonna get a text or a phone call immediately. So
Right.
we have different levels of alarm for all that type of stuff that'll be
Right.
set up.
So maybe you answered my question already. You do use natural gas. I mean, it's nothing all electric, is that correct?
Yeah, this building uses gas in the boilers, yeah. I mean, in theory, you could put in electric boilers and not use natural gas, but right now, the most cost-effective thing is natural gas.
Natural gas. okay.
Absolutely.
One more real quick question. Jason, do you have access to all of this information in this software program?
Yes, I do.
Okay. If you take a look at, like say, TST 2-3, I guess it was identified on the 4th of 2023. It says it's open. Do you get notified when it's repaired or fixed? Or
No news is good news. I mean,
so when it says it's open, that means it hasn't been repaired, I would take it.
Can I speak on that? So this project is different than how the next 2 projects are gonna go. This project is actually gonna be on this team to resolve the remaining issues that are open right now.
Because it's 2 years old.
Because it's 2 years old.
Right now, I'm working with Engineer Controls and Ray Martin. Luckily, those are the two contractors that we have continuity with throughout these projects. So they are willing to come in and take care of these issues that have been identified by Optimized.
But
So
So
we are
those-
working to get these issues all resolved, and they will be resolved.
Okay, so to clarify his question, those are 2 years old and they're gonna be identified. And they are on this building and 911? Or they're not part of the B wing or the new part of the?
What they just finished was the B-wing renovation. So
It was
they've,
part of the,
yeah,
Okay.
it was the courthouse B-wing renovation. That's the part we just finished, the first part we just finished up.
okay.
But as we go with this project, the air handler replacement project, the addition, and the sheriff's office, those are all active construction projects. It'll be on us to assign, and the whole construction team's actively engaged, and they will fix them, and you'll see these things open, we'll open new stuff, they'll close them, we'll open and they'll close. But since this is a retro commissioning and the job's well over 2 years old, that's why there's so many open.
Yeah, and
items
unfortunately,
left.
that task gets dumped onto these guys to have to get
Yes.
closed, where like Rick said, if it's an open project, they're gonna get closed or they're not gonna get paid.
Okay,
So you will follow up on all of these issues and make sure they get
We're currently
repaired and
working on them.
fixed?
Yep, we're currently working on them right now.
Okay, so you'll give us an update in a few months, whatever,
Sure.
however long it takes to get them done?
Yep.
I mean, I think it's important, I appreciate the efforts that you guys put forward to make sure that, the taxpayers are getting what they pay for and everything's functioning the way it's supposed to, so I do appreciate that, and Jason and Ben, I trust you very much to make sure that gets done.
okay.
Any other questions?
Thanks, you guys.
All right, thank you for your
you're up
time.
next too, but, next up, Jason Slack, Director of Buildings and Ground, Jeff Doolin, Chief Deputy Sheriff, and Matt Wyatt, Director, Planning and Development. Oh, did I go one extra? Yeah, no. And Rick Harrison, or Rick, come and see. See how I did that? Optimizes systems. Discussion or decision on jail chiller replacement project commissioning proposal.
This is a proposal from Optimized Systems in the amount of $39,500. It is to commission the chiller replacement project out at the sheriff's office. With that project, it's kind of complex because we're going through each one of the air handlers there and replacing the chilled water coils
Right.
because we're moving to glycol system there.
Okay.
I feel it's important to have these guys go through and catch the issues while the construction is on, is happening, the contractors are on site.
Does that come from a separate fund, or does that come from the construction costs?
So that's the issue, the money is the thing, the question mark. I don't have it in my budget, otherwise I would do it. The sheriff doesn't have it in his budget.
Was it under the contract with the contractor?
No.
The contractor just puts it in and walks away.
Correct.
He doesn't balance. Is that what it states in the contract?
No, the contractor comes and does the install, and then the engineer will come through and do a punch list. And then, we're kind of dependent on that engineer to find all the faults and issues that might arise. And just from this last report, it kind of shows that we're not really capable of identifying all those problems quick enough in order to get them taken care of while the contractors are still on site. We still have money to pay them.
Does that not go back to the contractor though?
It does go back to the contractor, so the issues, when they get identified, go straight back to the contractor that's responsible or was in their scope of work to take care of.
Jason, or Jeff, maybe are there any funds left in the contingency to cover any of this?
Probably not in that one. We are gonna cover the new addition wing with money from our budget. So that was a separate cost from these guys. I think it was about 20,000.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yep.
We were able to recover that money in the jail. I and I'll let Jason speak to it, he knows lots more than I do. We are so dissatisfied and it is so broke out there right now that I believe there may be possible legal ramifications in recovering some of this money from the people that we believe have failed us.
Are you speaking of the jail commission, or the jail chiller project or the addition, or both?
The addition. I think right now, if we get these guys in on the chiller project, we can avoid all of this that we had in the new addition. I've been promised a controls company to come into my place for weeks now and have not seen them yet. And Jason, again, can talk a lot more about this, but the level of HVAC quality that we have in the new addition is dismal, where we're moving people because things don't turn on, things don't turn off. And now we have a couple of contractors that are pointing fingers at each other saying, you put the wrong handler in, you didn't do this right. But yet we don't see a fix. And so I need these guys.
Are they from the subcontractor?
They're subs.
They're subcontractors,
Yes.
so it goes back to the contractor.
Correct. So you said it was 39,500?
Correct.
That's the
jail chiller, yeah.
That's the jail chiller. You said that's also gonna address some of the issues.
They are intertwined, and again, I'm gonna let the 1,000-pound brains tell you how, but it's because some of the stuff is intertwined into the jail project, it does have ripple effects, and again, I'll let you guys talk
Yeah,
about it.
and part of why the expense on this one is fairly high is because it's not just the chiller, because when we talked with Jason, I mean, that chiller feeds 2 air handling units, 4 rooftop units, some pumps. It feeds lots of things, and we didn't think it was right to just test, yep, your chiller's working great, good for you, if all the other equipment out there may or may not be working properly, because a system's a system, you have to look at everything as a whole. So that's why so much got wrapped into this, is because we're gonna go through and test all of those pieces of equipment as part of this.
I don't have any issues with it. Jason, if you're looking for a motion, I'll make a motion to approve the jail chiller replacement project commissioning proposal to optimize systems for $39,500 coming out of gaming.
What's the scope of time on this?
What's your timing like?
Well, we will start immediately, and then depending on how long the duration of the project takes, we usually last about a month beyond project completion. Our schedule is dictated by this contractor's schedule.
And this is gonna go into the sheriff's addition?
We're paying a separate contract fee, the $20,000 for them to do that, and they've already started.
Yeah, we've already started that part of it.
And I mean,
That'll go
am
into our
I,
contractor.
right. I don't think I've been over dramatic, but there are lots of problems on our side.
Wait for a second.
You are correct.
I'll
Any
second
questions?
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a
Okay.
second.
So is the contractor still there then on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
They were supposed to be done.
Is that?
DR Anderson is the general contractor on site there
Okay,
for that project.
for
Yeah.
the chiller.
For the addition? For the chiller, we have Grunwald Mechanical there.
Okay, so that's who we're dealing with here.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Okay. There's nothing in their contract that prohibits us from using these guys to
No,
oversee the
no.
rest of the project.
The chiller's supposed to be online in the next couple weeks too,
Right.
right?
Yeah, the chiller project should be wrapping up to, not,
I think
you
they're
know, by
low
May.
glycol, yeah, today.
Okay,
Okay, got a motion and a second to approve 39.5 for this commission report and our proposal. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Okay, the next up is a public health building commissioning proposal. Jeff, hopefully that'll help.
Yes,
clean
I
things
appreciate
up.
it, believe me. I think it's good, money well spent.
Good.
And thank you.
You're up.
Jason came to me on this one, and I'm right in line with what he's thinking as far as the commissioning for the new public health building. You know, we hope to have had systems put in place that would have aligned exactly what Jason and his guys were already familiar with and prepared for. We're seeing it in the courthouse, the efficiencies that they're catching. The jails, obviously, they're gonna catch some things there. It's probably a smart idea. Let's, we get signed on with them now. That way they can be a part of the whole project as it goes. And at the end, we're not just getting thrown a set of keys to a new building saying, there you go. But we have a building that we know is operating in the fashion it was designed to and appropriately.
Where are we at in the construction drawings and or anything else on that building, Matt?
We are in the construction drawing phase right now. It's, the lot's we made it through the rezoning process of the city for the lot. That part has been completed. At the same time, construction design drawings were going. We should have a permit and be ready to break ground in August.
This, do we have a final cost?
We gave them our final budget, yes. So we are on with that budget.
No change orders. That's the cost. They promised to build it for that.
That's the funding we have, right? So we gave them, we have a budget of $6 million. We're gonna get a $6 million building.
Okay, what's this cost?
What's the size of that again, Matt?
It's 15,185 square feet. 2 stories. It fits right on it's the same, when we came in the last time, we showed you the exterior design and the floor plan of the building. It's that building. The only modifications that have been made is some offices on the interior have been shifted around to lessen door costs. Some interior, money, so we can make the budget.
Susan and Jeff, have you seen that?
I've seen the plans, yes.
I think we probably better get at least back in here one more time and go through that.
I would like that.
Are they not going to make us, when we did the parking lot over here just recently, make us put in some detention areas for that property?
That isn't, so that's in the design right now. That parking lot over there has a stormwater drainage in it. It has been okayed with the city that stormwater drain that's in it is acceptable for what would be the new site that gets constructed there. So there is no plans on changing the stormwater drainage that site has.
And they did that same thing to us on the vets and then this other parking lot. So I just want to make sure that we're squared away on that before we get too much further down the road.
They've been in constant communication with the city as these things get drawn out. But yes, so right now that parking lot has stormwater drainage in it and has been okayed to continue to use for our new facility.
Okay. But I'd like to get this back, have these people all back in one more time and make sure this thing's.
I agree with you, Scott. Matt, do you think it's possible you can get both the, can't remember the names of both of them.
Alley Pointer.
Yeah.
And Field Day.
And Field Day back in here in
2 weeks.
It's up to the chairman. I mean, it could be next week.
That'd work.
Well, I just think next week might be a little bit challenging to get on Alley Pointer's schedule for next week. But if we could say 2 weeks, if you want me here in the room to talk to you, I would say if you give us 2 weeks, that'd make it easier on Alley Pointer. Because we're not the only.
How close are they on the construction drawings?
What's that?
How close are they on construction drawings?
They're happening. I can't give you like.
It'd be good to have.
Timeline is that the construction drawings are supposed to be done sometime in May, submit for the permit by August, issued to us by August. We would be ready to break ground end of August, beginning of September.
Okay.
See, so, I mean, if I remember right, before we took back the report was never found, but this commissioning was supposed to be done on the VA building. And, that's where we ended up having issues with some of the windows and some of the other stuff, but nobody could ever find the commissioning report. Is that not typically a thing that's done by the general contractor with a new building?
Are you speaking of the balancing report?
Yeah, the balancing.
Yeah, we never could find the balancing report, and it typically is something that they do with every building and every job that they do.
On a new building.
Correct.
You know, when you have an old building and you go in, I mean, the original building probably was balanced and commissioned, but when you go in and start remodeling and changing whatever offices into apartments or whatever the case may be in the buildings, then it probably has to all be redone again. You know, but I would have thought it'd be part of the original opening of the building that all those mechanisms and widgets and everything would be talking and working together and be part of the package. You know, I know this is kind of a rehab the way we're doing this building because we're adding on and taking over and that type of thing.
Right. Well, one of the things about the system down there that's gonna be in place at the public health building, it's a VRF system, stands for variable refrigerant flow. The equipment's quite a bit different than anything any of us in our maintenance department has worked with before. Optimized systems would provide us training on a lot of that, but that system runs a lot by computers and circuit boards. So it's definitely something that we want to get checked out as it's being done and get vetted.
What kind of warranty on that? On that system?
We'll probably get a 1-year warranty with it like everything else. Yep.
Matt, I do have a question. What kind of money is this commission for the new building gonna be?
$29,500.
The proposal was for $26,650.
26,000 what?
$650.
For the new building.
Jason, that, when you mentioned that air handling, system, that's different than we have anywhere else. Is it better or a little inferior than what we have?
It's the way everything's trending right now. Variable refrigerant flow is kind of the new thing. It doesn't take as much mechanical space. It's cheaper to install.
And Matt, if I can, one more question for you. The contractor is required to send out notice to bid for all of the different trades and stuff that were to happen and if we move forward with this public health building. Are we doing anything with that?
No, because we're not to that point yet, but yes, you are correct. Bids, packages will get sent out on every item to the building, yep.
Well, I look forward to them coming
And
in.
the savings on the VR, so the system that Jason's talking about, that was the savings on that system is just over $100,000. That's the reasoning on going with that system versus.
But we're gonna need to get trained up on our personnel for that system then.
Correct.
What's the cost of that?
Well, a lot of that, Optimize will help us out, in getting that building up and running. So that's part of their scope is giving us some training on that system.
And then we'll ensure that factory representatives from that system come out and help train Jason and his staff. Because it's totally different than anything that you normally would operate. But he's correct, and that's kind of trend that you see happening in a lot of buildings now is the VRF system.
So you're asking us to approve this now before we've even approved the building?
You've approved the building.
But we haven't seen the finals.
We want to bring these guys on during the design phase. That way they can do a better
Work
job.
with Ally Pointer.
Yep.
Is there any funds from Mid-Am or Black Hills for this stuff?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, there may be some. Have we talked to them about any kind of?
We've reached out to Mid-American Energy, and I mean, they want to be a part of the process, but there's not any funds that are going to come from them in the form of anything for
Will
us.
it have gas in it too, Black Hills?
I'm sure that they'll have gas in it as well. I mean, we could go to the representatives that we know through Advanced Southwest Iowa and submit for grant dollars to them for things like that, but it's not gonna be something that they just help us out. I mean, utility companies that were just sitting here today, I mean, they're not known for handing back money. I mean, they,
That's what their commercial says.
they're putting,
They're saving us all kinds of money.
they're putting a product in and they want, you know, customers to add to that subscription base.
The VRF is a heat pump system, so if your local utility provider has heat pump rebates, you will be eligible for those. I can't speak to what your utility provider has or doesn't have. But like if it was on the Omaha side, OPPD would have rebates, and we would help fill out that paperwork for the rebates. I don't wanna promise you that your provider has that, cause I don't know that.
I mean, heat pumps,
So the way a VRF system works is they're large heat pumps because and then it passes refrigerant to all the cartridges in the room. So this particular building at 16,000 square feet will probably have 4 in 2 different machines. And the other reason VRF is gaining popularity is because it usually ends up an all-electric system.
Good.
Is this time sensitive, Jason?
It is in the respect that we wanna bring Optimize in the, you know, in the design phase of the project. Could it wait? We could probably wait.
What's your recommendation, Jason?
I recommend we get them involved now.
I'll make that motion for you, Jason, to move forward with third-party commissioning services, $26,650. We'll take that out of,
Is it gaming as well, so since they're building
Okay.
contracts?
we'll take it out of gaming as well and move forward with this and
Why
authorize the
gaming?
chairman to sign the agreement.
Why gaming?
Anybody in Irving Renewal?
Well, we don't know.
They're gonna know about it, pretty much all tied up between this building and then the 3 million that's dedicated to the project already.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and second to approve this 26,650 out of gaming. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Okay, Jason Slack, Buildings Grounds Director. Discussion under decision on change order number 12, flagpole removal credit.
So basically what these 2 change orders are, we're just swapping scope between 2 projects, between the parking lot project and the courthouse addition, because it makes sense to do it this way. The flagpole, we want to move it into the courthouse parking lot because it's more a part of the parking lot. The conduits that will supply the electricity to the parking lot makes more sense to do out of the courthouse addition project while we've got that drive tore up and everything, because we've got to bury underground electrical there. But this is a credit for the flagpole in the amount of, $1,858 credit, but that's gonna be probably added on to the parking lot project.
So we can expect an $1,858 increase on the next one?
Well, we haven't gotten the numbers on that yet. It hasn't gone out to bid, but
We're gonna stub some other electronics out that way, I would hope. Not knowing what the future would have.
yeah, we're gonna get the electrical, and that's part of the next change order, but we wanna get the electrical out to that parking lot as part of the courthouse addition project. It just makes more sense logistically to do it now, rather than trying to, go under our old,
Right, tear it out again
Yeah.
once you put it in.
Any more questions?
This is the flagpole.
Correct,
This is the credit.
right.
Okay.
Motion?
I'll move that.
Got a motion to approve for credit of 1858?
Second.
Okay.
Any guarantees that the flagpole will cost the same to put it in the other project?
there's no guarantees.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion to deny, same. Motion carried. Okay, change order. It doesn't have the change order number. Parking lot electrical conduits.
Change order number 5 is what the.
Yeah, so they've got a couple different change order numbers on this for some reason, but this is in the amount of $23,458. That is a number not to exceed. So if it comes in below that, it'll come in below that. But this number, this $23,458 is a not to exceed number to get that electrical out to that parking lot.
It's more than that, Jason, isn't it?
No.
Okay, well, we received a, site plan sheet from ETI that put an in-ground LED light somewhere. This isn't part of this.
No, this is just for the conduits, for the parking lot, for the electrical, for the gate, the data and stuff, just to stub them out now.
Where's the power coming from?
This building.
The new mechanical room in the basement.
And the new mechanical room is on,
It'll be out of the B wing.
right out there, on the,
Yep, on the southeast side.
They shall come out of that new one out in the basement.
Oh, do they? Oh, they've got it coming out of the new addition now, apparently.
Yes.
So it'll come out of the electrical room of the new addition,
so we're only stubbing
just the conduits.
for 23,000.
Yeah, they gotta come in the building, they'll run them to the panels. So they gotta run them through the basement, out the east wall, and then they're taking them across. It's on that print. And they'll, put a quasi box, in-ground box at the squirrel cage jail in that lawn right there, on the north side of that sidewalk.
What's the landscaping fix?
I'm sorry?
What's the landscaping fix?
Landscaping fix?
Are we looking at the same thing, Jason?
Yeah, I believe so. So, parking lot conduits,
What do you have for a total price?
$23,458.
Landscaping was above it.
What's that?
This landscaping thing was above that.
Yeah.
That's for the flagpole. You're getting a credit back for them not doing rock and stuff around that.
Oh, no, this is
$3,300 and then another $2,600.
I'm not sure what,
This is what they're looking at, but I think that was just what their bid was, and they're subtracting that dollar amount of the 1,200 off the.
1,200. Yes, you.
I think that's
what page of this is that?
It's right above. On the, you print out the whole,
Yeah.
Flagpole says.
right here.
Okay.
So I think that's what he's saying, but that's their credit.
Yeah, but that's on the flagpole.
Okay.
no, it isn't.
From the Jensen Gardens quote?
I am looking at the general contractor's cost summary. Oh, is that something that happened before?
Yeah.
No. No, it isn't. It's part of this change order. Oh, wait a minute.
I don't have page.
I'm gonna have to take a look, Jason.
Yeah, then after you add the bond and stuff, it's 22,000.
What's that?
Oh.
It's an O-H profit at 5%.
I'm not sure what that is.
Is this time sensitive, Jason?
No, we can wait till next week if we need to get some verification on that.
part of the change order, we should at least know what it's for.
To fix, what's that?
Yeah,
That's the
five-
bid, the 500 to, I think to resod and
Yeah, the landscaping fix is $500.
is $500. I'm assuming for them to regrade and seed it when they're done, putting in the, burying, tearing up the yard.
And the NTE is not to exceed.
Now, this is conduit that's going into the parking lot at the courthouse. It's gonna be new concrete. So where is the sod at?
Probably where they put that quasi box in, it's going in the yard out.
It's going in the yard, but between the squirrel cage jail and the, parking lot. There's a strip of grass.
Okay.
That's where they're stubbing them out to.
Not running it under the concrete. Okay.
Yeah, you saw that planting, is this included in the?
No, that's for, they're taking this out for the flagpole.
No, it's a, maybe we got more information on here than we need. What is this for Jensen Gardens, Jason?
That was for the flagpole.
No, come on up. It's got home run rows, hydrangea.
That was the plan.
Yeah, that's a flagpole project.
This is?
Yeah, that's part of the flagpole.
Wow, I missed it.
There's,
Then they redid it
They redid it.
right below it. Revised code.
So do you have a flagpole on your packet too?
I have. Are you talking this?
Yeah. Do you have this one?
Susan, you were wondering about that.
Yes.
It's generally what contractors do when they
Is this the one you're looking at?
get something.
What does the O-H stand for?
5% of line 8.
overhead expenses.
Overhead.
Overhead expenses.
I was trying to put
It's
the
the
acronym.
contractor putting his 5% on to
Mm-hmm.
make the phone calls to tell them to get there.
Okay, now keep going.
Thank you.
That's where we're at right now, parking lot electrical conduits. So this is what we're looking at.
And this is what we've asked Jason to do because we agreed we wanted to have a gate in the courthouse parking lot.
The conduit and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I have that. It should be right, it's right here.
Yeah.
Did you find it? Or you lost?
I think it was a little confusing to me.
But this was in addition to what we've already approved for the gates themselves.
Correct, yeah.
First phase of the gate.
I'll make the motion to approve change order number 5 for $23,226. For parking lot electrical conduit. Did I do it all?
Conduit, yes. Good.
What was the number? 23?
23,226.
It's 23,458.
Not to exceed, so it might
Not
come
to
in,
exceed.
might come in cheaper.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second.
Is that, just before, so is that in the project? The monies? Or where's the monies coming from?
It would come out of the urban renewal bond.
Okay, so it's part of the project,
Yes.
okay.
Where are we at with that, Jason?
With the urban renewal bond, I'm not sure.
Do you know, Mitch?
I can bring it together and give you an update on it.
There was a substantial amount of money in there for, contingency, wasn't there?
We would have paid for this either way though. I mean, if it was part of the parking lot or, you know, whether it was, it just made more sense to do it as part of the addition.
Okay.
Things cost more normally on a change order, Jason?
I can't say that to be true, no.
What do you mean, the conduit?
What's your recommendation?
I recommend we do it.
Got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Mitch Kai, Director of Budget and Finance. Discussion under decision related to unused funds for a radio project.
So this relates to getting an official motion and approve it from you guys, relates to, we used our ARPA funds to buy the radios for all the volunteer fire departments across the county. That original money that was set aside was $3,250,000. Of that, we spent all but $120,000 of that. So that money is it's kind of unused right now. However, what's came up is all the fire departments across the county need to upgrade to encrypted pagers, as the rest of the counties around us are currently doing. I believe Douglas and Sarpy even went live today, maybe Council Bluffs went live yesterday. So they need to get this order in. So the purchase is gonna be for 298 pagers across the county. Basically shakes out to $626 a piece for, the total bill is $186,583. Now what I am suggesting we do is use $120,000 of that ARPA that we have kind of available, since it's a similar project for public safety. And then we would take the remaining $66,583.50 from gaming. However, we will be reimbursed that amount after July 1st from the EMA. EMA has that in their budget to reimburse us back at that point in time.
How many radios were there again, Jason?
Mitch, 298.
I'm sorry, Mitch. How many?
298.
Pagers.
Pagers, not radios.
And that, they are being spread out to how many volunteer fire departments?
At least gotta be 14 or 15 of them, I would guess.
All of them.
So each one of them's getting approximately 20 of these pagers?
So they reached, so I didn't put together the exact numbers of who's getting how many. They did call and have a meeting with all of the chiefs, and the chiefs put in the request for the radios that they needed.
For the pagers?
For the pagers.
Not the radios?
Not the radios, yeah, sorry, I keep saying that. This order's for pagers.
Okay.
I will make
Then-
that motion.
Then,
Got a motion? Need a second?
I'll second it.
and then, what, will this be the county's, last dollars that we need to spend here? Is there a plan for EMA or 911 or somebody to, start budgeting for these kind of expenses?
I think that discussion is really open right now. I think some of the problem is because, as you've seen how large these expenses are, that, to start setting aside to plan on, roughly if we had to redo, say, the radios in 7 or 8 years from now, we're probably looking at first, the total project between Council Bluffs and, the county was like $5.5 million in 7 or 8 years. We're looking at $10 or $11 million. Who's gonna set aside those funds for that long to be used? So it's kind of a tough situation, honestly.
Is there room, I wonder, in the townships for their volunteer fire department townships to put a levy together too? Or is that part of the discussion?
It has to be part of some of the conversation. We don't know which townships are already maxed out, what, the volunteer fire departments already cost for their trucks and equipment. I think, it's definitely a legitimate conversation that needs to be had how does the next round get paid for? Because, I mean, they shouldn't be expecting the county to come up with, that $10 or $11 million 7 or 8 years from now.
That's the issue. I mean, really, we were in a very fortunate position with ARPA funds to even do it
Correct.
this time.
Correct,
And there won't be any ARPA funds next time.
correct. They've
So-
had that conversation for the last 10 years. And I believe these radios lasted 13 or 14 years is what, I think it was '09. And all throughout that time, they talked about getting funds. And here we are, we had to spend the 3.2 to get them by. So actually 3.4 with our additional money here. So it really, I think we've done some really good things with our ARPA funds for that and really brought our fire departments forward. They're hoping these radios, they're saying there's a 10-year life. They're saying it could be 14, 15 years at that time.
You know, the issue is that, does Scarlet Lake get any of these pagers?
I believe so.
Okay,
Mhm.
so you're on that commission, and I think both you guys are, right, or is it Susan?
I
am.
So that discussion needs to happen if the county, I don't think the county should levy for any of it. It needs to happen through EMA and 911 or through their fund where they get their E911 fund.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they always say that that's already budgeted for. But, you know, if the county has to levy for it, none of these radios can go to Council Bluffs, do they?
No,
Okay.
Council Bluffs took their own.
So if we have to levy for it, then we're levying Council Bluffs too.
Correct.
You know, so something has to happen with the 911 commission or EMA to make this thing work. And then Council Bluffs needs to be included in that discussion.
I don't believe Council Bluffs has anything to do with the pagers. They don't have any
I
pagers.
think they upgraded themselves already.
Correct.
Well, we
That
have
is-
the issue with the towers that is looming too, so there's gotta be ability for those entities to create these, what do you wanna call, sinking funds or additional funds to start capturing money to replace these things that are not gonna get cheaper. And I don't know that vehicle's out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the concern too is, some of these entities, how much they take in each year of starting to build such a large fund balance of what it would take just to be holding money to know that it's not getting spent for 10 or 11 years, especially when you're talking, that large dollar amount too.
Yeah, well, who would hold it?
Right.
I mean, it shouldn't be this county.
No,
We
I don't
shouldn't
think
be
it should.
doing
It
this.
should be a separate entity, separate fund. And one of the things coming through the House is if EMA has a levy, right. That's still being debated.
They ought to take a look at their E911 budget. And I know they're spending a lot of that on tower,
There is some
Tower
upgrades they're
stuff.
doing at this time.
but I mean, now's the time to really start pushing something over on those two commissions, because I'll be alive in 10 years, but I won't be here. And I don't know if any of us will, but, we need to make sure that something's at least started for.
That is a
The next
conversation that's been had, and they are looking at it, so hopefully if they get levy, they can take care of that at that point too. Start setting some aside every year. Okay, I got a motion by Miller and a second by Belt.
That motion read 120,000 out of ARPA and the 66,583.50 from gaming.
To be
A loan from
to be reimbursed by EMA.
EMA.
Was that your motion, Susan?
Yes, that's exactly what my motion said.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same signal?
I got a
Motion
question about
carried.
the fire departments real quick. There are township fire departments in Potawatomi County, and are there city or Or
City.
town?
There's city fire departments that are funded by the cities and the townships.
Okay, so the town, the cities provide funding for the township fire departments, what's that fire department just, on 92?
Lewis.
Lewis,
Lewis,
yeah, Lewis.
There's no city funding that.
There's no city funding that.
No city.
What's that?
Right, there's no
There's no
city.
city, it's all
Right.
Lewis Township.
So even like McClellan, we don't fund the fire department out of any of our general dollars, so whatever the townships bring in, we give that to the fire department. We provide them a building and workers' comp insurance, that's all we do.
You don't pay any? You don't pay any into it? No, we do.
Township money is their operating
In
expenses.
the whole county, I think we have one paid fire department. Would that be accurate?
Lewis
Well, I
Township
think
has-
Lewis has a paid staff.
They got one, don't they? And they're bringing on a second person?
Well, I mean, they don't have firemen that are
No, he's
being paid.
I think he's an EMT
Yeah, one
and
guy
one
running.
fireman.
EMT.
That's what
But
I'm
yeah, he's
getting.
the first, the
Yeah.
first responder.
Many of the-
Carson did have one for a while, didn't he?
Many of the cities, their ideal scenario is to have a city employee that is an EMT. So they are available during work hours to make ambulance runs. That's the ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Make ambulance runs by themselves?
Well, you
Can't.
have to have an EMT,
They have two people.
but yes, you have to have two, but it's easier to find a firefighter that can drive the ambulance as long as you've got the EMT. In most cases, the ambulance can't leave without an EMT.
Did you get your answer? Did you get the answer to your question, Jeff?
Well, again, we're talking about equipment that is gonna be delegated to these entities. Should they not be looking for funding on their own right?
Sure.
That's what I'm asking. And how do they have to replace a fire engine? I mean, they don't, how do they replace those kinds of items?
The fire department or city bills out to the portion of the townships that they take care of.
Okay.
And that fund comes in. And however they take care of that, I know Crescent bought a lot of new equipment and, then there's a new deal where they can bill you for calls. And what the deal was, it's an insurance deal. They can bill your insurance. And then like if someone can't pay the bill or something, it's dropped after a certain time. So
Okay.
that's just the way it works.
But you are 100% correct, Jeff. There is room in the township. Well, I gotta be careful what I say
Yeah.
because I don't wanna be running, how many townships? 20-some?
Oh, yeah, 27.
Yeah. If we don't have township
26 or so.
officials that agree to serve voluntarily,
Right.
it falls back on us.
Okay. All right.
We don't want that.
All right.
I don't. All right,
No.
I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman
Okay,
Shea.
that passed. You're okay. It doesn't hurt to have discussion.
Well, that needs to happen, that, I don't know if we start
Okay,
talking
one of
to
the things-
legislators or whatever about that.
There was talk in the last year or two of phone technology for their next round. Whether that happens or what, that was a big talk within the last few years on EMA, so whether that happens or not, and where it goes from here is not us.
Okay.
Okay? All right, next up, Tracy Nose Capel. Environmental Health Coordinator, Planning and Development. Discussion and or decision to approve appointment of Tracy to the County Weed Commissioner, which you've been.
I'll move that.
Yes, sir.
Got a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve Tracy to the Weed Commissioner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's a heck of a job.
It is a job.
I know.
Weed conference Thursday and Friday if you guys want to come.
do you take care of like the little towns too?
A lot of them.
Okay.
Pretty much anything you get.
Because someone called me about some weeds the other day, and I said, I wanted to check with you anyway.
We do not handle the ones inside city limits of the small communities. If the small community reaches out and asks for assistance, we'll help them. But the city
Okay.
council and their clerks usually handle that for us.
All right.
And then we'll get, anytime we get a right of way, Dustin will usually, they'll handle all those areas as well.
Like on a county road,
Yeah.
because that's what this is. Okay. That sounds good, Tracy. Thank you.
If you have it though, if you can forward me the area, I can, get it over to them.
Okay, I'll do that, Tracy. Okay, next up, approve and sign resolution number 17, 2023, entitled Resolution for the Destruction of Noxious Weeds.
I'll move that for discussion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second.
Tracy, have you had the opportunity to see all these primary noxious weeds that are listed on our resolution?
We don't have them all, in the county, don't have all most of our issues seem to be more to thistles. I'd say probably about 85% of our calls are for thistles. Then we get a lot of the tall grass. But the others, we had some wild hemlock last year at the beginning of the year. But besides that, usually we don't see too many of the other, get calls on the other.
Wild hemlock? Jeez. Is it under something else?
Well, that one wasn't on here. It was this one we had at the beginning of last year. We had 2 or 3 people call on.
How about these secondary ones? You see any issues with any of those?
The wild parsnip, we started seeing some of that pop up. It's actually not one of them on it, but it's one of ours that's was a bigger issues in the fields. But for the secondary ones, there's your poison hemlock right there, number 9.
Okay.
And then let's see. Yeah, no. The others we haven't had too many calls on.
Okay. Do you ever send any notices to secondary roads?
Usually if we get any issues for the roads and the right of way,
Okay.
they'll usually go out and they take care of it typically within 2 or 3 days at the most. They're usually right up on it.
We have sent notices to the Iowa Department of Transportation.
Awesome.
Well, you really see a lot of thistles late summer, August, September, big patches of them.
Yeah, we had get quite a few. Like I said, that's probably about 85% of our calls.
Yeah. Okay. Melvin, will you do a roll call?
You bet. Chairman Shea,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman,
Aye.
Belt, Miller,
Aye.
and Jorgensen.
Aye.
She didn't put those in alphabetical order.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, anybody got committee appointments they were up? Scott?
No?
Tim?
Nope.
Last Tuesday, we went to the fire chiefs meeting that was at Lewis Township, and John Rasmussen presented an option to all of the fire departments if they wanted to participate or had a need for a signal light. He was putting a grant together, and I didn't think that anybody seemed too interested, but we'll see how that all plays out. I went to the SWIPCO board training in the meeting last week. Oh, at 712 Initiative, I attended their meeting, and they have an interim director, Lisa Fox, and they'll be looking at what the requirements are for their new CEO.
Jeff?
I was at, Saturday, I was at the Americans for Prosperity luncheon with State Senator Dan Dawson was there discussing what's going on in Des Moines, kind of an update. I think they're going into the funnel part of the session now. I think there are 50 days now, and they got a planned session of 110 days, and so they're 50 days into it. It's going to be very interesting what comes out of all of this. He's going to give me an update a little bit later on. One of the things is election of county supervisors. I think it's SF 341, is that right, Susan?
314.
314, okay. Yeah, so we're certainly going to, at least I am, I'm going to have some comment on that and see how that proceeds. But and then I had a meeting with Jenna Hatcher real quick, Melon. She kind of updated me on some of the problems that they're having with that step and grade. As it's working now, I think you probably will have her in here at some point.
Well, it depends on what Chairman Shea wants, but.
Okay, all right, I think.
I think it's a discussion we'll probably have.
Yeah, I think she
at
ought
some
to
point.
be invited in and have a discussion on that, what the issues they have, guys have with that, so that's where I'm at.
Now, is the issue with the supervisors, is that forcing us to go to Plan 3? Is that what
I believe so.
districts?
I talked to,
Over 60,000 people counting.
Comes up every year.
Okay, and
Yeah, passed out, it's gonna be a deal about that stuff.
We did pass that today. Yeah, it's got to, there'll be some other changes to it too, I would imagine. At least that's what Dan told me. So we'll see.
Yeah, they're trying to kill home rule, I guess. Whatever the voters want, it's too bad.
What's that?
Whatever the voter, they're trying to kill home rule. I mean, Plan 1, 2, or 3 is voted on.
That's exactly correct. They want to try to
Force it.
force it on everybody when there's a few counties that want it that way. Well, there's a procedure in home rule that lets them do that.
Yeah.
And we may get our taste of that, who knows?
Yeah.
But, to force, actually force that on a county, it's not the right thing to do. And I think there are, well, I'm not gonna go any further.
Well, yeah, it's, I like having 5 supervisors. I don't want to be stuck with 1 supervisor. Although Susan Miller would be a great East Pot supervisor
We could be in
from
different
Rockford
districts.
Township to Waveland Township. She'd have a lot of drive miles in her little,
I see,
in our
I
big
see this,
district.
yeah, I see this as a very big problem, potential problem, First of all, you've got supervisors on this board currently that have a lot of experience, and we need experience on this board. That's one issue that might come up. Also, it could be redistricting, or the boundaries of the districts could change periodically, and that's gonna be a problem. I just don't see it working. We're a large county. I think the whole county needs to elect all 5 supervisors. That's where I'm at.
Okay, I went to these meetings, the same as you guys. I went to the assessors, and then there was an EMA meeting also. So, that I had separate, so that keeps you busy. Let's see, anybody sign up for public comment? No one's here, so.
All right, with that, Chairman Shea, I'll make a motion to go into
Okay.
closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 20.17, parent 3, for discussion decision on labor negotiations, collective bargaining